Welcome to Julie's Toolbox Talks podcast, your go-to resource for safe digging and protecting Illinois' underground infrastructure. Each episode will share practical tips, real stories, and expert insights to help you dig smart, stay safe, and keep your projects on solid ground. Brought to you by Julie, Illinois Facility Notification Center. Hello and welcome to Julie's Toolbox Talks podcast, brought to you by Julie, Illinois Facility Notification Center. I'm your host, Jill Saylor. Thanks for joining us. In today's episode, we're going to explore something that is absolutely essential to safe digging across Illinois, the Watch and Protect program. We're going to break down what it is, how it works, and why it plays such an important role in protecting our communities, contractors, and critical infrastructure. You'll hear firsthand how Watch and Protect helps reduce risks and strengthen communication in the field. But before we get started, I'd like to bring in my co-host, Brian MacKenzie. Brian joined Julie in 2012, and he's been a trusted voice in damage prevention and a constant resource for stakeholders throughout Central Illinois. Brian, how are we doing today?
I'm great. How about you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Well, Brian, let's meet our guest, Aaron Hoerchler. Aaron is operations manager for Kinder Morgan, overseeing pipeline operations and one-call coordination along 150 miles of southern Illinois. He manages compliance, budgets, and more than 3,000 Julie locate requests each year. Aaron has also served as treasurer on Julie's board since 2019, bringing tremendous operational insight and dedication to damage prevention. So, Brian, go ahead, take it away.
Welcome, Aaron. Good to see you again.
Hey, Brian.
This topic here is very near and dear to my heart. For my father worked at Panhandle Eastern for 35 years. He was the underground storage field supervisor. So I was a little boy when he really let me in on some of these lessons. So I'm glad you're here. I'm 100% behind this program here, and I'm glad that you're here to explain it. So I really want to jump in here, and I want to let the listeners get familiarized with what is this Watch and Protect program that you have going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Watch and Protect is when a utility is actively monitoring an excavation while it's going on. It provides a open line of communication during the excavation between the utility operator along with the homeowner and or contractor. By not utilizing Watch and Protect, any delays, expansive costs, or even catastrophic instances can occur, if good communication is not associated with it. Yeah, Kinder Morgan's been doing it for probably about 15 years now, and that has drastically reduced our issues that we've had with line strikes, and basically it's really helped our communication. One thing I really would like to stress with Watch and Protect, it's Watch and Protect is not designed to slow down a project. It's designed to make sure that everybody gets to go home safe at the end of the project.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is one thing in the law change with Watch and Protect becoming mandatory, that it is not designed to hang up that excavator. It is designed to help you and achieve what you're wanting to do, because like I said, nobody wants to have a damage, especially on one of these major pipelines.
Yeah, for sure.
What are some of the most common risks or challenges you see in the field, and how do Watch and Protect help prevent that?
A lot of the risks, when Julie is called in, typically a utility is only marked with, paint or a flag, and a lot of times it's just a center line. Especially talking from the natural gas industry, the center line of the pipe, it could be anywhere from a 2-inch line all the way up to 48-inch or even bigger. So that flag is only symbolizing, purposely the center of it. So an excavator, won't know, okay, well, the flag's here, so I'm good if I go over 2 feet. Well, that 2 feet might be the end of the line. And the other thing with the risk is there's a lot of times that the depth of the pipeline is not known. There's been many, it went in at a certain depth. However, with erosion and naturally occurring, items, that depth could have went from 48 inches to 12 inches. So that's some of the risks and the challenges.
I am so glad you mentioned that, because that is one thing that I heard when I was locating. That's one thing that I heard continue today. Just because it's big doesn't mean it's deep, right? You hit it on the head. It's required to go in at a
100%.
certain depth, but it's not required to be, you don't know who was there before you. How much topsoil did they remove? I've seen that numerous times. So pro tip number one, ladies and gentlemen, I am so glad the law has changed to allow locators to now let people know the size of that utility facility. Because as you mentioned, we have a 48-inch gas main in Illinois, ladies and gentlemen, a 48-inch gas main. The tolerance zone is 18 inches either side of that mark. So that pipe is as big as a tolerance zone. Without you knowing that, again, this is just another reason why that watch protect is so crucial. How do contractors, locators, and homeowners, do they benefit from understanding and using this process?
Communication is key. Like I talked about, in the beginning, by having watch protect, the contractor is there, the homeowner is there with the utility owner. The utility owner has the ability then to firsthand educate, the contractor, the homeowner, as to what is actually there. What are the challenges? It's just an excellent way of communication, and really for a project to go well, for no instances, communication is the key, and that communication can help them in the future too. It shows them what the utilities policies and procedures are, and they could take that with them in future projects, even if it's not, around a pipeline or a big utility, just a dog fence, underground dog fence. It's just an experience, and it's a way to train.
Yeah. And I think it really reinforces it too, then, Aaron, is that this is a shared responsibility for everyone, for the contractors, the locators. It's a shared responsibility.
100%. You're exactly right. The project is only going to go as well as the communication goes. So if there's a break in the communication from the contractor to the utility, or the utility to the contractor, there's breaks there too. I can't say that we're 100% perfect. I'm hoping we're about 99.9, but really, there is a break both ways at some point. So at some times. So
I'd kind of like to let our listeners know what all goes into a watch and protect. I mean, what am I, the excavator or the homeowner, what am I expected to happen during this process?
The watch and protect, like I said, the utility company is going to be on site. We're right there while you're doing any excavation. Our policy is that we're there whenever anybody is excavating within 10 feet. Typically, though, however, it's usually within 25 feet, just for a buffer. However, what that will do is that will allow us, the utility owner, to ensure that the line. Once you take that first scoop of dirt off the top of the pipeline, your marks are gone. So that allows us to continually monitor, make sure we keep our depth, make sure we stay out of that 18-inch tolerance zone. You don't want to get inside it. And the other thing, depending on what type of equipment you're using, specifically like earth movers, that's a lot of stress on pipelines and stuff like that, just because of the weight and the short wheelbase. So that allows us to ensure that we're going around the pipeline or designated areas where it's not going to affect it. Because even though you didn't hit the line now, maybe you weakened it, and it could cause issues in the future. So really, it's just a way to monitor it and just make sure that you're not only safe now, but you're also safe in the future.
And I also want to let our listeners know that a watch and protect could be done for any utility facility, not just gas. Perhaps there's a transite water main that a utility wants to stand by over. There's not really a way to successfully locate it, but the consequences from a damage would be extensive should that happen. But I want people to understand that on these large gas mains, there's cathodic protection. There's a coating on these gas mains that help keep that from rusting. And unfortunately, we have excavators in Illinois that dig by braille, right? Smack, smack, smack. They dig along. They knock that coating off. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what they are watching on this pipeline to make sure that stays intact. Because believe it or not, Aaron, you might want to explain that to them. That coating is key.
Yeah, absolutely. The coating on the line is basically what protects the pipeline. Pipeline is steel for natural gas. It's steel, and it's the same as, any other piece of steel you have. It could cause, start rusting, cracking, everything else. That coating is what is on the line to actually protect the pipeline from rusting, from, and anything that could cause any damage to that pipeline. And we do monitor it. We have to, this goes off watch and protect a little bit. However, the pipeline itself has to run smart pigs through the line every 7 years. And believe it or not, if we're not there during a watch and protect, more than likely we're going to catch you in 7 years, because those tools are smart enough to pick up a dent or anything else. And it'll tell us, if it's at 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and it'll tell you the exact location and how big it is. So, you may not think we're the pipeline's watching, but we still can see it. We will catch it. And you brought up a great point too, Brian, about watch and protect is not just pipelines. There is a very there is a fiber that runs not too far from my house. It's actually a part of it's a government fiber that runs to an Air Force base. And anytime any excavation is done along near that, they have to be on site. And I think that's a extremely steep penalty if they do not notify them on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I cannot stress this enough to our listeners that this process, again, is not designed to hold you up in any way, shape, or form. It is designed to protect you. They're not babysitting you. Again, that coating is key. That coating is key not only to protect you, but to protect the community in the future. Like you said, these things, they are steel. They are susceptible to all the bad things that are out there. But this is why that process is so important to me. How do you see the role of watch protect changing as technology continues to evolve? I know we have members that actually have vibration alerts and things when somebody's digging near their pipelines, they can get notified. I know people fly over the top of these things. They are watching these things because it is a big deal. But how do you see this changing in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we fly our pipeline, depending on the time of year. It's either once a month or twice a month. And, they'll immediately, notify us if something's going on. However, there is software out there now that's really just starting to take off, both, as you mentioned, with vibration alerts in the ground. However, there's software now that you can actually put on the bottom of the plane, and it will give you a extremely graphic picture of what's exactly going on, the location of it, and everything else. So, Kinder Morgan is starting to get into that market, but the technology that's associated with it is amazing, and to the point that once it sees it, it can actually send a picture to the local operations with that picture and that location. So, if the plane flies over and if it's half hour from where the operations guy is, he's going to be there in a half hour, trying to find out what you're doing. So the technology is evolving like there's no tomorrow, which to me, I think is a great thing. Like you mentioned, it's not a big brother. We are watching, but we are watching for your safety and everyone else's safety.
I know you guys are running a lot of problems, especially out where these pipelines are positioned. I've seen deer stands get put up over them. And unfortunately, people come across a wide clearing. Oh, this is a great spot for that. Or that's not a good look. That is a monitored right of way, folks. That again needs to be clear and kept safe for that reason. So let me ask you. Do you happen to have an example of a story where the program made a clear difference in preventing a damage?
Yeah, actually, I have a couple. Before we started our Watch Protect program, even our documents aren't the best. Our line was put in the 50s. Documentation back then wasn't the greatest. This is probably 18 years ago or so, 19 years. And we actually were digging up, our pipeline. We had a contractor excavating it, and he started going down. The guy was monitoring it, and they took another bucket of dirt off, and the guy went down to actually, verify where it was at. And what we found was there was a buried valve with a stem and a hand wheel on it that was right there. Had the contractor taken another bucket, he would have ripped that valve handle off, pulled the stem out more than likely, and that line was full of pressure. So, that right there is just one example. where because of Watch and Protect, the operator was able to go home that night. There was no issue. Downstream customers were still able to have their gas supply. There was no issues there. So that's just one example. Another example of where Watch and Protect would have drastically helped was there's a, where our pipelines are now. When they were installed, it was typically rural areas. As everybody knows, subdivisions are going up all over the place. And where a pipeline was once in the middle of a field, now it's in somebody's backyard. And, it was a case where a new subdivision was going in. There was a phone line that was supposed to go in, and the phone line was supposed to go through the front yard. Our pipeline was in the back. However, because the home was finished, because the driveway was concrete and finished, the contractor opted to go around the back of the house. And thankfully, they went 18 inches deep. We were 24 inches deep. But that could have been a catastrophic failure. And that's one thing where, the Watch and Protect, the communication would have been key there. We could have helped them. If you need to go around the back, that's fine, but let's make sure we're doing it in a safe manner. So, those are two instances right there. One, a positive catch that really helped, and one where the communication could have been a lot better in preventing something just catastrophic.
And not just that, but and I know you've seen it through the years of doing this. I've seen where people have put up pools, in-ground pools, and they didn't call Julie or what have you. And then, the pig finds it, the airplane finds it, whatever it is. And now they've got to move it. So now you've got all that expense that could have been, shouldn't have happened. Now it is going to be happening. And one thing we haven't really talked about, and I don't want to scare anybody, but I do want people to understand this, that we are not talking low pressure gas, ladies and gentlemen. We are talking very high pressure gas, anywhere between 300 pounds to 1,800 pounds per inch. I mean, that is a tremendous amount of pressure moving through these pipelines. So it is another reason why they like to be there with you, just to protect. Watch it, protect.
I was just going to say, and as a homeowner, you're absolutely right, Brian, like with putting up an in-ground pool, or there's a lot that you don't even know what's underneath. And it's the best thing to do is to just call before and get it taken care of. Go online, look up Julie, and get it taken care of so that you can be safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brian, you brought up a great point. I've done presentations to fire departments, and my sister's actually a fourth grade teacher, and I went and talked to her class when they were talking about natural gas. And the thing that really amazes people is they don't really understand, the pressure that we're dealing with. The pressure going into your house is maybe 1 to 2 pounds. And as you mentioned, up to 1,800 pounds. We had to blow our line down. Ours was at 800 pounds at this time, but due to we had to blow it down at full pressure. I was half a mile away from it, blocking a road. A guy came up to me and stopped me, and he goes, "I just wanted to see what it was. I'm 3 miles away, and I couldn't figure out why this airplane kept hovering in the same place." So that's just an example of what this pressure is. And it is safe to be around. Don't get me wrong. As long as we do follow the Watch and Protect, the Julie, and everything else. So that is the key.
Excellent. None of us set out to have an accident, in that mindset. It's just accidents happen for a reason. And we just want to draw attention to these pipelines and attention to this process because it will help everybody.
Correct. Absolutely. As I said, and you said it too, Watch Protect is not to slow a project down. We'll do everything we can to make sure your project still goes on. We do not want to delay you. We just want to make sure you go home to your family.
Well, Aaron, thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks for sharing your expertise, the great stories, and some really good tips. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
Great. And Brian, thanks as well for your expertise and for being here today.
Thank you.
And to our listeners, we hope this gave you a deeper understanding of Julie's Watch and Protect program and how it serves as a critical safeguard for communities across Illinois. If you want to learn more about Julie, be sure to visit juliebeforeyoudig.com and explore the resources available to support you. And that goes for whether you're a homeowner, a contractor, or a utility professional. Until next time, stay safe, and remember, safe digging is in your hands.